The third time is a charm after the two previously failed attempts. NASA finally made history by launching their mega rocket into space on Wednesday, the 16th of November, 2022. The 1,000-meter-tall Artemis 1 rocket launched on its journey to the moon, putting an amazing light show in the early morning skies over Cape Canaveral in Florida. The Space Launch System lifted an uncrewed spacecraft up in the orbit in order to complete a very special mission to see if the moon is eligible for space colonization. Sounds like an exciting event, right? Want to know more about this historic launch and see what the future has to bring? Make sure you watch till the end of the video. NASA's Artemis program is a series of ongoing space missions. This unmanned mission, formerly known as Exploration Mission 1, is a thorough test of the Space Launch System and the Orion module. In a blog post on November the 21st, NASA officials celebrated the success of the Artemis 1 Orion spacecraft flyby and engine run near the moon. Orion reacquired signal with NASA's Deep Space Network at 7:59 a.m. Eastern Standard Time after successfully performing the outbound powered flyby burn. According to authorities, Orion was more than 230,000 miles from Earth when it fired its engines. NASA noted the outbound powered flyby burn is the first of two maneuvers required to enter the distant retrograde orbit around the moon. The spacecraft will perform the distant retrograde orbit insertion burn Friday, November the 25th, using the European Service Module. But what exactly is the goal of the Artemis 1 mission? Artemis 1 is a test flight. It will be the first combined trial of SLS and Orion, the later of which was sent into space on a trial mission in 2014. This will be the maiden launch of the SLS. This is a mission that will truly do what hasn't been done and learn what hasn't been known. NASA's Artemis 1 mission manager Mike Serafin said in a statement, "It will pave the way for people to follow on the next Orion flight, pushing the envelope to prepare for that mission." Serafin is referring to Artemis 2, which will have a crewed Orion capsule attempting a similar mission. Artemis 1 and 2 are both test flights for Artemis 3, in which NASA will attempt to land a man and woman on the lunar surface. Artemis 2 is now set for late 2024, with Artemis 3 possibly taking place in 2025, but more likely in 2026. The Artemis program is NASA's overall mission to return people to the lunar environment. But unlike Apollo, these missions are meant to keep us there. To that objective, NASA and its international partners want to construct the Gateway Lunar Space Station, which will support activities both on and around the moon. Artemis desires a long-term and permanent return to the moon, but the truth is far greater. Our sights are not set on the moon. Reed Wiseman, NASA Johnson's lead astronaut, told reporters at a press conference on August the 5th, "We've clearly set our sights on Mars. Indeed, the technologies and experiences gained during Artemis will help NASA and its partners prepare for crewed missions to Mars, which might occur in the late 2030s or early 2040s. All of this, however, is contingent on Artemis 1's success. We're never going to get Artemis 2 if Artemis 1 isn't successful," Jim Free, NASA's Director of Exploration Systems, told reporters on November the 11th. NASA attempted to launch Artemis 1 twice previously, both times failing. The first scrub, scheduled for August 29, was canceled owing to a defective sensor, while the second scrub, scheduled for September the 3rd, was canceled due to an uncontrollable hydrogen leak. The second scrub forced NASA to conduct an unplanned cryogenic tanking test on September the 27th. The space agency subsequently scheduled the third SLS launch attempt for September the 27th, but Hurricane Ian caused a postponement, sending the mega rocket back to the vehicle assembly building for cover. To the moon again. A lot has changed in the 50 years since Apollo 17 astronaut Eugene Cernan left his final footsteps on the moon in 1972. Today, mankind is ready to depart low Earth orbit once more. So far, just 24 astronauts have accomplished this achievement, all of whom are white men. The first astronaut of color and the first female astronaut will soon be added to the legendary ranks of moonwalkers. It's all because of NASA's Artemis mission, which aims to explore more of the lunar surface than ever before. By 2025, we may witness astronauts walking in the lunar dust again and in much greater detail due to technology advancements that have resulted in improvements from grainy black and white video footage. A new generation may perceive themselves as aspiring space explorers, encouraged to dream big. However, the next moonshot will need the development of a completely new launch technology as well as some practice. The unmanned Artemis 1 will be the first flight of NASA's huge SLS rocket. The new mega rocket will launch the Orion spacecraft on a 4-week voyage around the moon. If all goes as planned, the Artemis 2 mission, which would transport men around the moon and back, will launch in 2024 with the help of SpaceX's Starship rocket. Artemis 3 will land people near the lunar South Pole. This historic mission is scheduled for 2025 or 2026. Orion will be propelled into orbit by 2 massive solid rocket boosters and a core stage with 733,000 gallons of fuel. The top stage of the SLS, called the Interim Cryogenic Propulsion Stage, will then launch Orion toward the moon. After the ICPS has launched, it must discharge 10 tiny CubeSats that are hitchhiking on board Artemis 1. BioSentinel, a mission that will transport yeast samples beyond Leo, is one of these small spacecraft. The goal is to investigate radiation levels and their effects on living beings, which will give critical insights into keeping humans safe on future Artemis missions. Following separation from the ICPS, Orion will be pushed and powered by the European Space Agency's European Service Module. The Service Module will also provide consumables for the future crew, including water and oxygen, explained Philippe Berth, ESA's Module Project Coordination Manager. Artemis 1 will be gone for 26 to 42 days. It will take 1 to 2 weeks to reach the moon, where Orion will swoop down near the surface and use the gravitational kick to start a distant retrograde orbit. Retrograde implies it will orbit the moon in the opposite direction as the moon revolves. Orion will remain in that orbit for 6 to 19 days, then it'll swing back down toward the moon for another kick, which will help fuel its 9 to 19-day trip back to Earth. So, how does the new Orion service module stack up against the lunar modules that carried Apollo men to the moon? The propulsion is largely the same. It is very comparable to the Apollo era, Berth explained. Nonetheless, half a century of technical growth has resulted in additional advances. There have been vast improvements in solar cells, Berth added. Computing power is another major improvement, Berth remarked. The Apollo astronauts famously flew to the moon with a processing power equivalent to that of an iPhone. For the team, this meant a lot of manual labor. This time, the spacecraft's sophisticated computers will handle the majority of the hard work. While no humans will be flying aboard Artemis 1, the expedition has an amazing crew. Commander Munican Campos, a mannequin dressed in the Orion crew survival system, a special suit meant to help protect against radiation, will take the commander's seat during the flight. 2 radiation sensors will detect radiation levels. Munican Campos is named after electrical engineer Arturo Campos, who safely returned the Apollo 13 mission to Earth. Campos will be joined by 2 virtual female astronauts who will fill other Orion seats, according to German Space Agency research. Zohar, one of the dummies, will wear a radiation shielding vest called Stemrad. Helga, on the other hand, will go without protective gear. Although the mannequins will be strapped in, the weightless atmosphere must also be tested. According to a NASA release, the space agency is flying a zero-gravity indicator in the shape of a Snoopy cuddly toy clothed in an iconic orange NASA costume. The Snoopy comic strip mascot has a long history with lunar exploration. The crew of Apollo 10 dubbed their lunar module Snoopy. Sean, everyone's favorite stop-motion sheep, also has joined the Artemis 1 group. The intelligent Shropshire lamb, in plush doll form, will fly to the moon on board the Orion spacecraft, owing to an agreement made by the European Space Agency, which created the mission's power-providing service module. And Artemis isn't only about the moon surface. It also includes a moon-orbiting outpost named Gateway. Think of it as an international space station, but in lunar orbit. Gateway might be completed as early as November 2024 and is expected to last for 15 years. That brings us to the end of today's video. If you liked the video, please leave a like and a comment below. Also, if you're new to this channel, subscribe and click the notification bell to get notified when we upload more content. You can also check our other videos by visiting our channel. See you in the next video.